The call wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No slammed doors. No whispered endearments that didn't belong to him. It was quieter than that. Daniel almost missed it entirely. He was halfway through an email when his phone buzzed on the desk. Clara's name. He considered ignoring it. She'd been distracted lately, restless in ways he couldn't name, but he answered out of habit. Hey. Nothing. At first he assumed the connection dropped. Then he heard movement. The soft friction of fabric. A faint echo, like a high ceiling somewhere. He waited. A second voice drifted through the speaker, slightly muffled. So you're really going to wait until after the reports go public? Daniel frowned. There was a pause. Then Clara's laugh. Not the polished one she used at dinners. Not the careful one she offered when he told long stories. This one was unguarded. Of course I am, she said. Timing matters. He didn't breathe. Does he suspect anything? Clara didn't hesitate. Daniel, she said, amused. He still thinks we're arguing about the kitchen renovation. The sentence settled in his chest before the meaning did. He stayed perfectly still, as if movement might interrupt whatever fragile thread was connecting him to the truth. There were fragments after that. Mentions of attorneys. Something about keeping things amicable. Words like reasonable and clean break. Security is the point, Clara said at one point. Not happiness. Not passion. Security. The line shifted. A chair scraped. Wait, she said suddenly. Did I hang up? Daniel ended the call before she could check. He sat there for several seconds, staring at his reflection in the dark screen. Nothing had changed in the room. The same muted office lights. The same stack of project drafts. The same skyline beyond the window. But something had shifted underneath all of it. Not rage. Not yet. Just an awareness that whatever version of his life he had been operating inside was no longer accurate. He closed his laptop slowly. At 6:17 p.m., he walked out of the building and headed home, unsure whether he was arriving to ask a question or to confirm an answer he already had. The drive home takes 23 minutes. Daniel counts them. He doesn't turn on the radio, doesn't call anyone, just grips the wheel and watches brake lights blur ahead of him in the early evening traffic. Security is the point. The phrase loops back every few seconds, uninvited. He tries to remember the last time Clara mentioned security. Tries to recall if she'd seemed worried about money, about stability, about anything that would justify the clinical tone she'd used with whoever was on the other end of that call. Nothing surfaces. Their accounts are joint. The mortgage is manageable. She freelances when she wants to, turns down work when she doesn't. Last month, she'd declined a retainer with a design firm because the hours didn't appeal to her. He'd supported the decision without question. By the time he pulls into the driveway, his hands ache from holding the wheel too tightly. The house looks ordinary. Lights on in the kitchen. Clara's car already parked where it always is. He sits in his own car for 30 seconds longer than necessary, then gets out. Inside, she's standing near the island, still wearing her coat. Her purse sits on the counter, keys beside it. She looks like she just walked in, though her car suggests otherwise. You left work early, she says. He sets his briefcase down carefully. You called me. I did. You didn't hang up. There's a pause. Not long. Just enough for something to shift in her posture. And, she asks. He doesn't blink. You were discussing divorce strategy. Clara exhales, slow, controlled, like she's resetting. She removes her coat with deliberate motions and drapes it over the back of a chair. Daniel, you can't take fragments of a private conversation and... You mentioned timing, he interrupts. Reports. Attorneys. She stops moving. Looks at him directly. You always said transparency mattered, she says finally. So yes, I've spoken to someone. The admission lands without weight. No apology. No panic. About Marcus? He asks. Her eyes flicker once. Brief. Unmistakable. This isn't about an affair. He notices she doesn't say there isn't one. They stand across from each other in a kitchen they renovated 2 summers ago. Clara had insisted on the marble countertops. He'd wanted something more practical. They'd compromised on her choice. We've grown apart, she says now. You know that. Daniel thinks of last Sunday. Brunch with the Kowalskis. How Clara had reached across the table for his hand when Janet mentioned their upcoming anniversary. How natural it had looked. I didn't know we were scheduling our separation around quarterly disclosures, he says. She doesn't respond. He waits for her to explain, to defend, to offer some version of events that makes the overheard conversation less calculated. Instead, she picks up her purse. I'm staying at Michelle's tonight, she says. We can talk when you've calmed down. I am calm. She looks at him for a long moment. I know. That's the problem. She walks past him toward the stairs. He hears her moving in the bedroom above. Drawers opening. A suitcase zipper. He doesn't follow. 15 minutes later, she comes back down with an overnight bag. She pauses near the door. For what it's worth, she says quietly. I didn't want you to find out this way. What way did you want? She doesn't answer. Just opens the door and leaves. The house settles into silence. Daniel stands in the kitchen until the sound of her car fades completely. Then he walks to the guest room, sits on the edge of the bed, and stares at nothing in particular. His phone is still in his pocket. He takes it out, opens the call log, and looks at Clara's name. 5:42 p.m. duration. For minutes, 17 seconds. He doesn't delete it. Daniel doesn't sleep. He lies in the guest room bed with his eyes open, listening to the house settle. Every creak feels amplified. Around 2 in the morning, he gives up and goes downstairs. The kitchen still smells faintly of Clara's perfume. He makes coffee he doesn't drink and sits at the table until dawn breaks through the windows. At 7:15 a.m., his phone vibrates. A text from Clara. Coming by at 10 to get some things. Will only be a few minutes. He doesn't respond. She arrives at 10:03. Lets herself in with her key. Daniel is in the living room, laptop open but untouched. He hears her footsteps on the stairs, the soft thud of items being gathered, drawers closing with careful precision. She doesn't call out to him. He doesn't go up. 20 minutes later, she appears at the bottom of the staircase with a canvas tote and a garment bag. I'm taking the blue suitcase too, she says. Not asking. Informing. Fine. She sets the bags down and moves into the kitchen. He hears the refrigerator open. Cabinet doors. She's taking inventory, he realizes. Cataloging what belongs to her. When she comes back, she stops in the doorway. We should probably discuss logistics, she says. Like what? Bills. The mortgage. Who stays here? Daniel closes the laptop. You've already decided that. I haven't decided anything. You told someone the timing matters, he says evenly. That implies a timeline. Clara's jaw tightens. She sits on the arm of the couch, not quite committed to staying. I needed advice, she says. That's not the same as having a plan. You mentioned keeping me reasonable. She looks away. I was venting. To who? Does it matter? He considers the question. It might. She stands again, picks up the tote. I'm not doing this right now. Doing what? Justifying every conversation I've had in private. You weren't private, Daniel says quietly. You but dialed me. The phrase sounds absurd even as he says it. Accidental. Amateur. Nothing about the conversation he overheard felt accidental. Clara's expression shifts into something that might be embarrassment or irritation. He can't tell which. I've spoken to an attorney, she says finally. About options. That's all. What options? Separation. Division of assets. The standard things. Is Marcus one of the standard things? Her face hardens. There is no Marcus. You didn't deny it yesterday. I didn't confirm it either. They're circling now. He can feel it. Every question deflected. Every answer just vague enough to avoid commitment. Why now, he asks. Clara looks at him like the question is irrelevant. Because we're not happy. Are you happy? She hesitates. Just a beat. I don't know what I am. It's the first honest thing she's said since she walked in. Daniel leans back in his chair. So you're leaving without knowing what you want. I'm leaving because staying feels worse. Worse than what? She doesn't answer. Just picks up the garment bag and slings it over her shoulder. I'll be at Michelle's for now, she says. We can figure out the rest later. Later when? I don't know, Daniel. When it doesn't feel like an interrogation. She walks toward the door. Stops with her hand on the knob. For what it's worth, she says without turning around. I didn't want it to be like this. Like what? Cold. The word hangs in the air after she leaves. Daniel sits in the silent house for another hour before he moves. Then he opens his laptop, creates a new document, and begins typing everything he remembers. Not just from the phone call. From the last 6 months. The late meetings that ran past midnight. The weekend trip to Portland she took alone. The new phone she bought in December and password protected immediately. Small things. Unremarkable on their own. He types until his wrists ache. By the time he stops, the document is 4 pages long. He saves it, labels it with the date. Then he searches for divorce attorneys in the area and starts making calls. He doesn't tell Clara. The attorney's office is on the 8th floor of a building Daniel passes every day on his way to work. He's never noticed it before. Her name is Rebecca Huang. Mid-40s, sharp suit, handshake that feels practiced but not disingenuous. "Walk me through it," she says once they're seated. Daniel recounts the phone call, the conversation at home, Clara's admission about consulting someone. He keeps his voice level, factual. Rebecca takes notes on a yellow legal pad. "Did she name the attorney she's spoken with?" Rebecca asks. "No. Do you know if she's filed anything?" "Not yet." Rebecca sets her pen down. "Then you have time." "For what?" "To protect yourself." She leans back in her chair. Right now, everything is reactive. She controls the narrative because she's been planning. You need to shift that. Daniel nods slowly. "How?" "Documentation. Financial records. Communication logs. Anything that establishes pattern or intent." She walks him through the process. Bank statements. Credit card transactions. Emails. Text messages. A timeline of her behavior over the past year. "If she's been having an affair," Rebecca says carefully, "that can affect spousal support in some cases. But you'd need evidence." "I don't have evidence," Daniel says. "Just a name. Marcus." She denied it. Rebecca makes a note. Denial isn't the same as truth. "Do you have access to her phone records?" "They're on our joint account." "Pull them. Look for patterns. Frequent contact with the same number. Late night calls." Daniel absorbs this quietly. It feels invasive. Then he remembers Clara's voice on that call. Clinical, detached, strategic. Security is the point. "What about assets?" he asks. Rebecca straightens. "Tell me what you have." He lists the obvious things. The house. Joint savings. Retirement accounts. 2 cars, both paid off. "Anything else?" she asks. He hesitates. "An inheritance. From my grandfather." "How much?" "A little over 200,000. It's in a separate account." Rebecca's expression sharpens. "Does Clara know about it?" "She knows it exists." "I don't think she knows the amount." "Did you commingle any of those funds with joint accounts?" "No. I kept it separate." "Good. That's likely protected as separate property. But you need to document that clearly." She slides a checklist across the desk. It's 2 pages long. Bank statements. Property deeds. Tax returns. Employment records. "I need all of this within a week," she says. "Sooner if possible." Daniel takes the list. Scans it. And then we file first. Before she does? Before she's ready. Rebecca folds her hands on the desk. Right now, she thinks she's in control. She thinks she has time. If you file first, you set the terms. You choose the timing. Daniel thinks about Clara's careful exit yesterday. The measured way she'd packed her bag. The assumption in her voice when she said they'd figure things out later. "How soon can we file?" he asks. 2 weeks if you get me everything I need." He nods once. "I'll have it to you by Friday." That night, Daniel sits in the home office surrounded by file folders and spreadsheets. The bank statements go back 3 years. He highlights every transaction over $500. Most are predictable. Mortgage payments, insurance, groceries. Then he finds the anomalies. A hotel charge in August. The Prescott, downtown. Clara had told him she was visiting her sister in Ohio that weekend. A wire transfer in September. $3,000 to an account he doesn't recognize. Dinner charges at Marcello's, an Italian place across town they've never been to together. For separate occasions between June and November. He pulls the phone records next. One number appears repeatedly. Late-night calls. Texts at odd hours. The pattern stretches back 7 months. He runs the number through a reverse lookup. Marcus Holloway. The name confirms what he already knew but hadn't wanted to believe. Daniel sits back in his chair and stares at the screen. 7 months. Not a mistake. Not a moment of weakness. A relationship. He thinks about their anniversary dinner in October. How Clara had smiled across the table. How she'd thanked him for the necklace he'd bought her. She'd been texting Marcus 2 hours before they left for the restaurant. He closes the laptop before he can spiral further. The document he started yesterday now has 9 pages. Hotel receipts. Call logs. Withdrawal patterns. A timeline that tells a story Clara never intended him to see. He saves it. Backs it up. Emails a copy to himself. Then he sits in the dark office and listens to the house settle around him. At some point, his phone buzzes. A text from Clara. Need to come by tomorrow afternoon to get my winter coats. Will that work? He stares at the message for a long time. She's still pretending this is amicable. still operating like they're two reasonable adults navigating an unfortunate situation. He types back, "Fine." Then he opens his email and sends everything to Rebecca Huang. Subject line, documentation attached. Filing timeline confirmed. He hits send before he can reconsider. Clara comes by on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Daniel is working from home. He hears her key in the lock, hears her footsteps moving toward the bedroom closet upstairs. She doesn't announce herself. He stays at the dining table, laptop open, pretending to focus on a project timeline that hasn't changed in 3 days. 15 minutes later, she appears with an armful of coats draped over her shoulder. "I'm taking the gray one too," she says. "The cashmere." "That's fine." She pauses near the door. "Have you thought about what you want to do with the house?" Daniel looks up. "I'm keeping it." Her expression shifts. "We should discuss that." "There's nothing to discuss. It's in both our names, but I'm buying you out." Clara sets the coats down on the back of the couch. "You can't just decide that unilaterally." "I'm not. I'm making an offer." "Based on what assessment?" "Market value. I'll have it appraised." She crosses her arms. "And if I don't agree? Then we sell and split it." "But you won't get more that way." She studies him for a long moment. "When did you become this person?" "What person?" "Transactional." The word lands with intent. He doesn't react. "I'm just being clear," he says. She picks up the coats again, but doesn't leave. "My attorney says we need to establish temporary arrangements." "Finances. Living expenses." "You have an attorney." "Of course I have an attorney, Daniel. What did you think I was going to do?" "I have one too." Her face goes still. "Since when?" "Since last week." The silence stretches thin. "You didn't mention it," she says finally. "Neither did you." Clara's jaw tightens. She shifts the coats to her other arm. "This doesn't have to be adversarial." "I'm not making it adversarial. I'm making it formal." "There's a difference?" "Apparently not to you." She turns toward the door, then stops. "My attorney is going to send over a proposal. For temporary support." "Support for what?" "Living expenses. I can't afford Michelle's couch forever." Daniel closes the laptop. "You turned down a retainer in November. 30 hours a week at $75 an hour. That was a bad fit." "It was income." Her expression hardens. "So now you're auditing my career decisions?" "I'm pointing out that you've had options." "And you've had a stable salary," she fires back. "We're not the same. The accounts are joint. You've had access to everything." "Access isn't the same as security." There it is again. That word. Daniel stands. "What do you need security from?" Clara doesn't answer. Just picks up the coats and opens the door. "You'll hear from my attorney by Friday," she says. Then she's gone. The proposal arrives Thursday morning via email. Daniel reads it twice. Clara is requesting $3,000 per month in temporary spousal support. The justification cites her freelance income's variability and the need to maintain a comparable standard of living during the separation. There's also a request that Daniel continue covering her health insurance and car payments. He forwards it to Rebecca. Her response comes back within an hour. "We need to talk. Can you come in today?" He's at her office by 3 p.m. Rebecca has the proposal printed out, annotated in red ink. "She's overreaching," she says without preamble. $3,000 a month is aggressive given her earning capacity. "She hasn't worked consistently in 8 months, Daniel says. "By choice." "That matters." Rebecca flips to the second page. "We'll counteroffer. $1,500, and that's generous. Health insurance is standard, but she doesn't have to like it. She has to accept that this isn't a negotiation where she controls all the variables." Rebecca leans forward. "Here's what I need you to understand." Her attorney is positioning this as a case where you're the higher earner and she's financially vulnerable. That narrative works if you let it. But the evidence you provided, the refused job offer, the discretionary spending, the affair, undermines that story. "Do we mention Marcus?" Rebecca considers. "Not yet, but we document it. If she pushes too hard on support, we use it. As leverage. As truth." Daniel sits back. It feels calculating. Then he remembers Clara's voice on that phone call. Reasonable men sign quickly. "Send the counteroffer," he says. The response from Clara's attorney comes Monday afternoon. They've rejected the buyout proposal and increased the support request to $4,000 per month. The email includes a line that makes Daniel's chest tighten. "Our client has been financially dependent on Mr. Mercer throughout the marriage and requires adequate support to transition to independence." Rebecca calls him immediately. "They're playing hardball," she says. which means they don't know about the inheritance. Should we tell them? Not yet. Let them overplay their hand. She pauses. I'm filing a motion for temporary orders. We'll let the court decide what's reasonable. When? End of the week. This gets formalized whether she's ready or not. Daniel looks out the window of his office. Outside, the city continues like nothing has changed. Do it, he says. The first people to notice are the Kowalskis. Janet texts Clara on a Wednesday morning asking if they're still coming to the fundraiser on Saturday. Clara forwards the message to Daniel with a single line. What do you want to tell them? He stares at the text for several minutes before responding. Tell them the truth. Her reply takes longer. Which version? He doesn't answer. By Thursday, 3 more couples have reached out. Casual check-ins that feel slightly too pointed. Dinner invitations extended with unusual insistence. Daniel declines them all politely. Clara, apparently, accepts. He learns this from Tom Kowalski, who calls him Friday evening under the pretense of discussing a work referral. Janet mentioned Clara's coming tomorrow, Tom says. Solo. That's her choice. You doing okay, man? Daniel keeps his voice neutral. I'm fine. If you need anything. I appreciate it. Tom doesn't push. The conversation ends with vague promises to grab lunch soon. Daniel knows they won't. Saturday night, he stays home. He doesn't track Clara's movements. Doesn't check social media. Just works through emails and pretends the silence doesn't press against him. At 10:47 p.m., his phone buzzes. A text from Rachel Chun, a colleague from his firm. Saw Clara tonight at the Riverside thing. She seemed good. You guys okay? He doesn't respond. Another text comes through 10 minutes later. Different number. Karen, somebody from Clara's book club. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Let me know if you want to talk. He turns the phone face down. By Sunday morning, there are 6 messages. Half sympathetic, half fishing for details. He deletes them all without reading past the first lines. Monday at work, the shift is subtle but unmistakable. People who normally stop by his desk to chat suddenly seem busy. Meetings feel slightly more formal. Lunch invitations evaporate. At 2 p.m., his manager, Stephanie, appears at his door. Do you have a minute? He gestures to the chair across from him. She sits, adjusts her blazer. I wanted to check in. Make sure everything's manageable. It's fine. Because if you need some time. I don't. Stephanie nods slowly. Okay. Just know the options there. She leaves without explaining what prompted the conversation. Daniel suspects someone said something. Maybe Rachel. Maybe Tom. It doesn't matter. Tuesday, Clara emails him directly for the first time in a week. People are asking questions. I think we need to align on what we're saying. He replies, tell them we're separated. That's accurate. Her response is immediate. That makes it sound hostile. Is it not? The typing indicator appears, then disappears. No reply comes. Wednesday, Daniel has lunch with an old law school friend who's in town for a deposition. Garrett orders wine despite it being noon. Daniel sticks with water. So I heard through the grapevine, Garrett says carefully. You and Clara. News travels. It does in this city. Garrett swirls his glass. She handling it okay? Daniel cuts into his sandwich. You'd have to ask her. I'm asking you. I'm handling it fine. Garrett studies him. You always were good at compartmentalizing. Is that a compliment? An observation. They eat in relative silence for a few minutes. Then Garrett leans back. For what it's worth, he says, I never thought you two made sense. Daniel looks up. Why not? She always seemed like she was performing. Like she was trying on the life instead of living it. It's the most honest thing anyone said to him in weeks. Maybe she was, Daniel says quietly. Thursday night, he runs into Michelle at the grocery store. She's in the produce section, inspecting avocados. She sees him before he can turn down another aisle. Daniel. Michelle. They stand there awkwardly. She shifts the basket on her arm. Clara's staying with me, she says, as if he doesn't know. Just until she finds a place. That's fine. Michelle hesitates. She's going through a lot right now. I'm sure she is. I mean emotionally. This hasn't been easy for her. Daniel feels something tighten in his chest, but keeps his expression even. I hope she finds what she's looking for. Michelle's face softens into something that might be pity. You were always so composed. Even now. He doesn't know how to respond to that. She reaches out briefly, touches his arm. Take care of yourself. Then she's gone, leaving him standing in front of the bell peppers with a card he no longer remembers filling. By Friday, the social calculus has settled into a pattern. Mutual friends choose sides without announcing it. Invitations become selective. Conversations careful. Daniel stops checking his phone for messages that aren't about work or the divorce. Clara, from what he can piece together, is doing the opposite. Maintaining visibility. Attending events. Cultivating a narrative he can only guess at. He doesn't correct anyone's assumptions. Doesn't defend himself. Just continues showing up to work, answering Rebecca's emails, and existing in the slowly shrinking space his life has become. On Saturday morning, he receives a formal notice. The court date for temporary orders has been set. 3 weeks out. He forwards it to Rebecca without comment. She replies within minutes. Good. Let's make sure we're ready. He closes the email and looks around his empty house. Ready, he thinks, might not be the right word. But he'll show up anyway. The name surfaces in a way Daniel doesn't expect. He's reviewing discovery documents on a Thursday evening when Rebecca calls. I need to ask you something, she says without preamble. Marcus Holloway. Do you know what he does? Daniel sets down his coffee. No. I assumed he worked with Clara somehow. He's a consultant. Corporate restructuring. But here's the interesting part. He's currently under investigation by his firm for financial irregularities. How do you know that? I have a contact at Brennan and Cross. They're handling it quietly, but it's not exactly a secret in certain circles. She pauses. I'm telling you this because it changes the calculus. How? If Clara's been relying on him for stability, financially or otherwise, she may have miscalculated. Daniel absorbs this. You think she knows? I think she's about to. 3 days later, Clara calls him. Not texts. Calls. He almost doesn't answer. Then curiosity wins. What do you need? He asks. There's a long pause. Background noise that sounds like traffic. Can we talk? Her voice is different. Quieter. We are talking. In person. Not about the lawyers. Just, can we? Daniel looks at the stack of financial disclosures on his desk. When? Tonight? I can come by around 7. He shouldn't agree. Rebecca would tell him not to. Fine. He says anyway. She arrives at 7:12 p.m. He opens the door, and she stands there holding nothing. No bag. No coat to retrieve. Just herself. Thanks, she says. He steps aside to let her in. They end up in the living room. She sits on the edge of the couch. He takes the chair across from her. So, he says. Clara looks at her hands. I made a mistake. Which one? She almost smiles. Fair. She exhales slowly. Marcus. I thought. I don't know what I thought. Daniel waits. He made everything seem simpler, she continues. Like starting over was possible. Like I could just, she stops. Shakes her head. It doesn't matter now. What changed? She looks up. He's not who I thought he was. Meaning? Meaning he thrives on chaos. On things being unstable. I thought that was exciting. Turned out it was just chaos. Daniel keeps his expression neutral. And you're telling me this because? Because I don't know who else to tell. Her voice cracks slightly. Everyone else thinks I'm handling this perfectly. That I'm the one who wanted out and got what I wanted. Didn't you? She's quiet for a long moment. I don't know anymore. He watches her carefully. This isn't the Clara from the overheard phone call. This isn't even the Clara who left with calculated precision 2 weeks ago. This is someone uncertain. What do you want from me? He asks. I don't know, she says. Maybe just acknowledgement that this is hard. It is hard. For you too? He considers lying. Decides against it. Yes. She nods slowly. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. The phone call. You hearing all of that. But you planned the rest. I thought I was being practical, she says quietly. Protecting myself. From what? She looks at him directly. From ending up alone with nothing. The honesty surprises him. Not because it's cruel, but because it's vulnerable. And Marcus was insurance, Daniel says. I thought he was. She laughs once sharp. Turns out he's a liability. Daniel doesn't tell her what Rebecca told him. Doesn't mention the investigation or the financial irregularities. He just sits there and lets the silence stretch. Finally, Clara stands. I should go. Okay. She walks to the door, then turns back. For what it's worth, I didn't want you to be collateral damage. But I am. She doesn't deny it. Just opens the door and steps into the night. After she leaves, Daniel sits in the quiet house for a long time. He thinks about the version of Clara who planned her exit with precision. The one who discussed attorneys and timing and keeping him reasonable. Then he thinks about the woman who just sat across from him, admitting she miscalculated. Both versions are real. He doesn't know which one is more true. The next morning, Rebecca emails him. Holloway resigned from his firm yesterday. Effective immediately. Thought you should know. Daniel reads the message twice. He wonders if Clara knows yet. Wonders how she'll react when she finds out the future she was building has already started collapsing. He almost feels sorry for her. Almost. Then he remembers her voice on that call. Reasonable men sign quickly. He deletes the email and goes back to work. The court hearing is scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. Daniel arrives 15 minutes early. Rebecca is already there, reviewing notes at a table in the hallway outside the courtroom. Clara's attorney just requested a continuance, she says without looking up. Why? Didn't say. Judge denied it. At 9:58, Clara appears with her attorney, a woman in her late 50s with silver hair and an expensive briefcase. They don't make eye contact as they pass. Inside, the hearing is procedural. Sterile. A judge reviews motions and financial disclosures with the detachment of someone who's seen this 1,000 times. Clara's attorney argues for $4,000 in monthly support, cites Clara's reduced income, her need for stability during transition. Rebecca counters with documented evidence of refused employment, discretionary spending patterns, the existence of separate protected assets. The judge listens with minimal expression. At one point, Clara's attorney mentions Daniel's substantial undisclosed inheritance. Rebecca doesn't flinch. Your Honor, those funds are separate property, maintained in a separate account, never commingled. They're irrelevant to spousal support calculations. The judge makes a note. I'll take this under advisement. Temporary order will be issued within 10 days. It's over in 37 minutes. Outside, Clara waits by the elevators. Daniel walks past her toward the stairs. Daniel. He stops, but doesn't turn around. Can we talk for a minute? She asks. Rebecca touches his arm lightly. I'll meet you downstairs. He nods. Rebecca leaves. Clara steps closer. That was worse than I expected. What were you expecting? I don't know. Something less. She trails off. Clinical. Yes. They stand in the empty hallway. Somewhere nearby, a door closes with a heavy thud. I didn't know about your grandfather's money, Clara says quietly. Not the amount. I know. Did you think I was after it? Daniel finally looks at her. I think you were after security. You said so yourself. She folds her arms across her chest. I'm not the villain here. I didn't say you were. You're treating me like one. I'm protecting myself, he says evenly. The way you've been protecting yourself. Her expression shifts. Something like recognition. This isn't who we are, she says. It's who we became. Clara opens her mouth, then closes it. She looks smaller somehow, tired in a way makeup can't hide. Marcus left his firm, she says after a moment. Daniel doesn't react. I heard. Of course you did. She laughs without humor. Everyone hears everything eventually. Is that why you wanted the continuance? She shakes her head. No. That was my attorney's idea. I told her it wouldn't matter. Why not? Because delaying doesn't change anything. She looks at him directly. Does it? He doesn't answer. I thought it would feel different, Clara continues. Being separated. Being free to make my own choices. But it just feels empty. Daniel thinks about his own house. The way rooms echo now. The way meals for one feel performative. Yeah, he says quietly. She seems surprised by the agreement. Do you ever wonder if we could have? She stops herself. Never mind. Could have what? Fixed it. Before it got this far. He considers the question honestly. I don't know when it broke. So I don't know when we could have fixed it. Clara nods slowly. I keep thinking there was a moment. Some conversation we should have had. But I can't find it. Maybe there wasn't one. That's worse, she says. If it just eroded. They stand there for a long moment. The hallway feels too bright. Too exposed. I should go, Clara finally says. Okay. She starts toward the elevator, then stops. Turns back. I didn't want to hurt you, she says. I know that doesn't help. But I didn't. Daniel looks at her. Sees the woman he married. The one who laughed at his terrible jokes. Who fell asleep during movies. Who brought him coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. He also sees the woman who planned her exit with precision. Who discussed timing and strategy. Who built a contingency plan that involved someone else. Both versions exist. I know, he says. It's not forgiveness. But it's acknowledgement. Clara's eyes glisten briefly. She nods once, then steps into the elevator. The doors close. Daniel stands alone in the hallway until Rebecca reappears from the stairwell. You okay? She asks. Yeah. She doesn't look convinced, but doesn't push. The order should come through next week. My guess is they'll split the difference. $2,500 a month, temporary. That's fine. And the house buyout should proceed. Her attorney knows they don't have leverage there. Daniel nods automatically. Rebecca studies him. This part is hard. The in-between. It gets clearer once everything's final. Does it? She doesn't answer. Just gestures toward the exit. They walk out into cold afternoon sunlight. Daniel's phone buzzes in his pocket. A text from his brother, checking in. He ignores it. Drives home instead. The house is exactly as he left it. Empty. Quiet. Waiting for a future he hasn't figured out yet. He sits at the kitchen table and stares at nothing in particular until the light outside fades completely. The temporary order comes through on a Tuesday. $2,200 per month in spousal support. Health insurance maintained. Car payment remains Clara's responsibility. Rebecca calls it a win. Daniel just calls it done. Now we move to final settlement, she says. Property division. Retirement accounts. The house. How long does that take? Depends on how cooperative they are. Could be 6 weeks. Could be 6 months. Daniel hopes for 6 weeks. The negotiation begins with spreadsheets. Clara's attorney sends over a proposed division. 50-50 on joint accounts. Equal split of retirement funds. The house to be sold, proceeds divided. Rebecca responds with a counteroffer. Same splits on accounts and retirement. But Daniel keeps the house, buys out Clara's equity at appraised value. The back and forth takes 3 weeks. During that time, Daniel has the house appraised. Market value comes in at $412,000. Mortgage balance is $168,000. Clara's half of the equity, $122,000. He can cover it from the inheritance without touching his retirement accounts. Rebecca sends the offer with documentation. Clara's attorney takes 4 days to respond. When they do, the counteroffer asks for $140,000. Client believes the appraisal undervalues the property given recent renovations and market conditions. Rebecca calls him immediately. They're fishing. For what? To see how badly you want it. Or to see if there's more money somewhere. There isn't. I know. But they don't. She pauses. We can hold firm at $122 or split the difference. Your call. Daniel thinks about the kitchen Clara insisted on renovating. The marble counters he didn't want. The money they spent making the house into something neither of them ended up wanting to live in. $130, he says. Final offer. You sure? It ends the conversation. Rebecca drafts the response. The reply comes back faster this time. Clara's attorney accepts $130, but adds a condition. Client requests possession of the following items: dining room table, bedroom set, living room bookshelf, and framed artwork in hallway. Daniel reads the list twice. The dining room table was his grandmother's. The bedroom set they bought together. The bookshelf came from Clara's apartment before they married. The artwork, 3 framed prints, he doesn't care about. He emails Rebecca. She can have the bookshelf and artwork. Everything else stays. The response is immediate. What about the bedroom set? Compromising there might close this. Daniel stares at his screen. The bed frame. The dressers. They picked them out on a Saturday afternoon 4 years ago. Spent 2 hours in a furniture store arguing about wood finishes. He hasn't been able to sleep in that bed since she left. He types, she can have it. On Friday, Clara texts him directly. Thank you for being reasonable about the furniture. He doesn't respond. 10 minutes later, another message. Can I pick it up this weekend? I'll bring movers. He replies, Sunday after 2 p.m. She arrives at 2:17 with 2 men and a moving truck. Daniel is in the home office when he hears them come in. He stays there, door closed, while furniture scrapes across floors and voices discuss angles through doorways. At one point, footsteps pause outside the office. A soft knock. Daniel. He opens the door. Clara stands there holding a framed photo. It's from their honeymoon. Both of them on a beach, sun-drunk and smiling. This was in the nightstand drawer, she says. Do you want it? He looks at the photo. Tries to remember what that version of himself was thinking. What future he imagined. No, he says. She nods. Hesitates. Can I keep it? If you want. She tucks it under her arm. The bookshelf is already loaded. We'll get the bed frame next. Okay. She doesn't leave. Just stands there, awkward in a house that used to be half hers. The settlement looks like it's coming together, she says finally. Yeah. I appreciate you not dragging it out. There's no point. Clara shifts her weight. Michelle thinks I should try to get more. From the house. From support. What do you think? I think I'm tired. She looks past him into the office. I think this whole thing has been exhausting, and I just want it over. For the first time in weeks, they agree on something. 1:30 is fair, Daniel says. You know it is. I know. She looks back at him. My attorney keeps asking if there's anything else. Other accounts. Other assets. He keeps his expression neutral. There's not. It's not a lie. The inheritance is separate. Protected. None of her business. But he sees the question in her eyes anyway. Okay, she says quietly. One of the movers appears at the top of the stairs. We need help with the headboard. Clara glances back. I should. Go ahead. She leaves. Daniel closes the office door and listens to the sounds of his shared life being dismantled and carried away. By 4:30, the truck is loaded. Clara appears one last time, keys in hand. I'm leaving these, she says, setting them on the kitchen counter. I won't need them anymore. Daniel nods. She walks to the door, then pauses. The paperwork. For the settlement. My attorney says it should be ready next week. Rebecca said the same. So we're close. Yeah. Clara looks around the empty living room. It's strange. Being almost done. Is it? She meets his eyes. Isn't it for you? He thinks about what comes after. The house that's only his. The accounts that don't require joint signatures. The future that doesn't include her in any meaningful way. No, he says honestly. It's just the next thing. Something flickers across her face. Disappointment, maybe. Or relief. She leaves without saying goodbye. Daniel watches through the window as the truck pulls away. Then he walks through the house, noting what's gone. The bedroom looks larger without furniture. Emptier. He stands in the doorway for a moment, then closes the door. He'll buy something new. Something that's only his. The final settlement agreement arrives via email on a Wednesday in late April. 37 pages. Single-spaced. Legal language that reduces 7 years of marriage to asset columns and liability distributions. Daniel reads it twice before signing. Rebecca reviews it with him over the phone, walking through each section with clinical precision. Joint accounts divided equally. Retirement funds split per QDRO. You retain the house. Wire Clara $130,000 within 10 days of decree. Spousal support terminates upon finalization. Clean break. And that's it. That's it. She pauses. You'll need to appear before the judge for the final hearing. Formality, mostly. Confirm everything's agreed upon. When? May 15th, 10 a.m. Daniel marks it in his calendar. How are you feeling? Rebecca asks. He considers the question. I don't know yet. That's normal. He's not sure normal is the right word either. Clara signs the agreement 2 days later. Daniel knows because Rebecca forwards him the confirmation email. No message from Clara herself. Just her attorney's acknowledgement that all documents are executed. He transfers the house buyout on Monday. $130,000 from the inheritance account to Clara's attorney's trust account. The balance afterwards still shows over $60,000. Money his wife never knew existed. Money that gave him options she didn't account for. He closes the banking app and doesn't think about it again. The week before the final hearing, Daniel gets an unexpected call. Tom Kowalski. He hasn't spoken to Tom since the separation became public. Hey man, Tom says. I know this is probably weird timing, but Janet wanted me to reach out. About what? There's a thing. Memorial Day barbecue. We're doing it at our place like always. She wanted to make sure you knew you're invited. Daniel thinks about last year's barbecue. Clara had worn a blue sundress. They'd brought potato salad and stayed until sunset. I appreciate it, he says. I'll let you know. Sure. No pressure. Tom clears his throat. For what it's worth, we're not trying to pick sides or anything. I know. It's just, these things are complicated. They are. After the call ends, Daniel realizes he never asked if Clara was also invited. He suspects she was. He deletes the reminder anyway. May 15th arrives overcast and humid. Daniel wears the same suit he wore to the temporary hearing. Meets Rebecca outside the courtroom at 9:45. Clara is already there with her attorney. She's wearing gray. Hair pulled back. No jewelry except small earrings. They make eye contact briefly. She nods. He nods back. Inside, the judge is different from before. Younger. More efficient. She reviews the settlement agreement aloud. Asks if both parties understand and agree to the terms. Yes, Your Honor, Clara says. Yes, Your Honor, Daniel echoes. The judge signs the decree. The marriage is dissolved effective immediately. You're free to go. It takes less than 12 minutes. Outside, Rebecca shakes his hand. That's it. You're officially done. Daniel thanks her, pays her final invoice on his phone while standing in the courthouse parking lot. Clara is still inside, speaking with her attorney near the elevators. He doesn't wait. Drives home to a house that's legally, entirely his. The silence feels no different than it did yesterday. That night, he sits in the empty living room and tries to identify what he feels. Not relief, not grief, just a flatness. Like something that was pressing against him has lifted, but the absence doesn't feel like freedom. He orders takeout, eats it standing at the kitchen counter. His phone buzzes. A text from his brother. Heard it's finalized. You okay? He types, yeah, all good. Then he deletes it and writes, getting there. Sends it before he can reconsider. 2 days later, he starts looking at new bedroom furniture online. Nothing like what he had before. Something simpler. Less deliberate. He orders a platform bed and a single dresser. Neutral wood. No story attached. Delivery is scheduled for the following Tuesday. On Wednesday, he gets an email notification. Clara has updated her relationship status on a platform he forgot they were both still connected on. He clicks through to her profile without meaning to. Single. No other changes. No new photos. Just the status update. He closes the browser and doesn't check again. Friday afternoon, he's walking out of a coffee shop downtown when he sees her. Not Clara. Michelle. She's with someone he doesn't recognize. They're laughing about something, completely unaware of him. He could keep walking. Should keep walking. Instead, he stops. Michelle. She turns. Her expression shifts through surprise, guilt, something else he can't name. Daniel. Hi. The person she's with excuses themselves tactfully. Michelle adjusts her purse strap. I heard everything finalized. It did. That's good. I guess. She seems unsure whether to continue. Clara's doing okay. In case you were wondering. I wasn't asking. Right? Of course. She shifts her weight. She found a place. 1 bedroom in Riverside. Moved in last week. Daniel nods. Doesn't ask for details. She's trying to figure things out. Michelle continues. It's been hard for her. He almost says it's been hard for him too. Almost points out that Clara chose this. Planned it. Instead, he just says, I hope she does. Michelle looks at him for a long moment. You're not angry. No. You should be. Maybe. She seems bothered by his composure. Like his lack of visible emotion is itself a judgment. Take care, Daniel, she says finally. You too. She rejoins her friend, and they disappear into the afternoon crowd. Daniel stands there for a moment, then continues to his car. That night, he pulls out the anniversary card he'd saved. The one Clara wrote years ago. For all the years ahead. He reads it once more. Then he throws it away. Not because it hurts. Because it doesn't mean anything anymore. And maybe it never did. Summer arrives without announcement. Daniel sells the house in early June. The market is strong. He accepts an offer 3% over asking from a couple with 2 children and a dog. They walk through on a Saturday morning, pointing at features Clara chose. The marble counters. The renovated bathroom. The hardwood floors they'd refinanced to install. It's perfect, the woman says. Daniel signs the paperwork 2 weeks later. He moves into a condo downtown. 12th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. No yard. No memories. The furniture he ordered arrives in pieces. He assembles it himself over a weekend, following instructions that make no allowance for hesitation. By Sunday evening, the place looks inhabitable, functional. It doesn't feel like home yet. He's not sure it's supposed to. In late June, he receives a forwarded email from an old mutual acquaintance. The subject line reads, FYI, Marcus situation. He almost deletes it. Opens it instead. Thought you should know. Marcus Holloway left town. Apparently the firm thing got worse. Word is he's in Denver now. Or maybe Phoenix. Nobody's really sure. There's no additional context. No explanation of why Daniel should care. He forwards it to Rebecca out of habit, then realizes there's no reason to involve her anymore. He deletes the draft. Sits with the information for a moment. Marcus, the variable that disrupted everything, is just gone. Scattered to another city. Another life. Clara had built part of her exit around him. Now he's irrelevant. Daniel wonders if she knows. Wonders if it matters to her. He doesn't ask. July brings heat and a work project that keeps him late most evenings. He doesn't mind. The office is air-conditioned and purposeful. His condo is neither. One Thursday, Stephanie stops by his desk at 7:30 p.m. You're still here. Finishing the meridian analysis. She leans against the doorframe. You've been putting in a lot of hours. The work needs doing. It does. She pauses. But you don't need to do all of it yourself. Daniel looks up. I'm fine. I know you are. She straightens. Just making sure you know the difference between productive and avoidant. After she leaves, he sits with that for a while. Then he saves his work and goes home. In August, he runs into Clara. Not intentionally. Not dramatically. Just at a grocery store on a Wednesday evening. She's in the frozen food aisle, studying ice cream options with an expression of mild frustration. He sees her before she sees him. Could turn around. Could leave. He doesn't. Clara. She startles slightly, then recovers. Daniel. Hi. They stand there with shopping carts between them like barricades. She looks different. Hair shorter. Wearing clothes he doesn't recognize. How are you, she asks. Fine. You. Good. Settled in the new place. That's good. The conversation is aggressively polite. Carefully empty. I heard you sold the house, she says. Yeah. Closed in June. Where are you now? Downtown. Condo. She nods. Doesn't ask for details. A long pause expands between them. I should, she starts. Yeah, me too, he says simultaneously. They both stop. Almost smile. Don't quite. It's strange, Clara says quietly. Running into you like this. Is it? We used to do this together. Grocery shopping. Wednesday nights. He'd forgotten that. Or maybe he'd just stopped thinking about it. We did, he says. She looks at him directly. Are you okay? Really? The question surprises him. Not because she asked, but because she seems to genuinely want to know. I think so, he says. Are you? She considers this. I don't know yet. It's the most honest thing either of them has said. Marcus left town, she says suddenly. In case you heard, and were wondering. I heard. It was a mess. All of it. She shifts her weight. I don't know what I was thinking. Daniel doesn't offer absolution. Doesn't tell her it's okay. Just says, people make choices. Bad ones sometimes. Sometimes. Another silence. I should let you finish shopping, Clara says. Okay. She starts to push her cart away, then stops. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're doing okay. You too. She leaves without looking back. Daniel stands in the frozen food aisle for a moment longer, then continues through the store. Buys things for one person. Meals that don't require planning. Drives back to his condo and unpacks groceries in a kitchen that still feels temporary. On a Sunday in late September, Daniel finds an old box while organizing the storage unit. Wedding photos. Cards from the reception. The program from the ceremony. He sits on the concrete floor and flips through them. Clara in her dress. Him in his tux. Both of them younger. Certain about something that turned out to be negotiable. There's a photo of them cutting the cake. She's laughing. He's watching her laugh. He tries to remember what the joke was. Can't. He closes the box. Doesn't throw it away. Doesn't keep it in the condo either. Just leaves it in storage where it won't demand anything from him. October arrives cool and clear. Daniel accepts Tom's standing invitation to the Kowalskis' annual fall party. He goes alone. Stays for 90 minutes. Makes conversation with people who knew him as half of something that no longer exists. Nobody asks about Clara. Nobody mentions the divorce. They just talk about work and weather and weekend plans. It's fine. When he leaves, Janet walks him to the door. I'm glad you came, she says. Thanks for having me. She hesitates. You seem different. Different how? I'm not sure yet. She tilts her head. But not worse. He thinks about that on the drive home. Different. Not worse. Maybe that's all aftermath is. In November, Daniel starts running again. Early mornings before work. Through downtown streets that are still dark and mostly empty. He doesn't track distance or pace. Just runs until something loosens. One morning, he passes a woman walking a dog. She smiles. He nods. It's nothing. Meaningless. But for a moment, it feels like something could be possible again. Eventually, on a Tuesday in December, he receives a LinkedIn notification. Clara has started a new position. Design director at a firm he doesn't recognize. He clicks through to her profile. Sees the professional photo. The updated bio. She looks composed. Purposeful. He's glad for her. He means it. He closes the tab and doesn't check again. That night, Daniel sits in his condo with the lights off, watching the city glow below. He thinks about the call that started everything. The accidental exposure. The unraveling. Wonders if there was a version of events where they survived it. Decides it doesn't matter. What happened is what happened. 7 years compressed into 37 pages of legal language in a 12-minute court hearing. A marriage reduced to asset distribution and final goodbyes that weren't really goodbyes at all. Just endings. He finishes his drink, sets the glass down. Outside, the city continues. Indifferent and illuminated. Inside, Daniel sits with the quiet. Not comfortable yet, but getting there.